Remember from last time that we add numbers that have the same sign and keep the sign, like -2 plus -6 is -8, and 3 plus 4 is 7. And when we have different signs, we subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So 3 minus 5, or 3 plus -5, that's subtract, so you get 2, and keep the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. -7 plus 1, we subtract because they have different signs, get 6, keep the sign of the number with a larger absolute value, -6. Okay, let's bump it up a little bit, move on to an example with fractions. We have 3/4 minus -2/3 minus 1/5. Okay, so we're going to work inside the parentheses first. So 3/4 minus, I'm going to rewrite this by putting the negative in the numerator. Remember, you can do that. I'm going to change this to plus -1/5. Okay, so just remember that if we have -1/2, -1/2, that's the same thing as putting the negative in the front or in the bottom, 1/2. Okay, so long as you have an odd number of negative signs, you're fine. But if you put 2 negative signs, that would be different. -1/2, -1/2, the 2 negatives will cancel out and give you just positive 1/2. Okay, so there's a little side note about moving negatives around. So I can take this negative, move it to the numerator, take this negative, also move it to the numerator. Now I have a plus in the middle. All right, let's go back to our problem. Okay, so we want to add these two fractions. We have -2/3 plus -1/5. The way to add fractions is to first find a common denominator. When you add and subtract fractions, common denominator. Multiply and divide, don't need one. But for adding and subtracting, yes. So we'll find a common denominator. I think you know that it is going to be 15. So we need to multiply this numerator by 5 and the denominator by 5. All right. And then over here, we need to multiply this numerator by 3 and this denominator by 3. Remember, whatever we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom. Okay, move it on up here. Now we can leave the 3/4 the way it is. We can add this together, so we get -13/15. How do we get the -13? Okay. Remember, once you find common denominators, you keep the denominator, so that's 15, but the -13 comes from adding -10 with -3. -10 and -3 have the same sign, so we add the two numbers and we keep the sign. So 13 and then make it negative. All right, now we have a double negative, 3/4 minus -13/15. So the two negatives will cancel each other out. We'll get 3/4 plus 13/15. Okay, so again, we have a situation where we have two fractions. We want to add them, so the first thing we need to do is find a common denominator. Okay, what's the common denominator for 4 and 15? All right, we're, 60, yes, 60. So we need to multiply the numerator and denominator by 15. Okay, so 45/60. Multiply this numerator and denominator by 4. So 12, so 52/60. Okay, and then we'll add. So remember, keep the denominator, it's just 60. Okay, so when I come up here, it's just 60, but we add the numerators. They have the same sign, so we just add, we keep the positive sign. So 97. Reduce it if you can, but this does not reduce. So that will be it.